And finally, we come to some population problems. We find out that in the year 2000, when t equals 0, the population of Chicago is growing at this rate. The population of Denver is growing at this rate. And we want to find the change in population between 2005 and 2009 of each of these cities. And so what we want to do is we want to use that same formula. The integral of rate is going to be equal to my total change. And again, we should be having t equal a and t equals b on here, and this is going to be the change between those two times, t equals a and t equals b. So for Chicago, the wonderful city of Chicago, our integral that we're going to need to compute is the integral from 2005 to 2009, and we have t equals 0. So the integral from 5 to 9 of 17 plus 160 ln of 1 plus 2t squared dt. And for the city of Denver, the integral I'll need to compute is I'm going to figure out what the total change in the population between 2005 and 2009 was, which is what's here. I'm going to take the integral of my rate from 5 to 9. So my rate for Denver is 17e to the 0.5t plus 1. Now, both of these you can feed into your handy-dandy calculator, the FNINT, to find that the population of Chicago changed by 3,840.64 people, and that the city of Denver changed by 12,590.65 people. So Denver's growing a lot more in those years between 2005 and 2009. Now, let's look at a second part to this problem, though. The problem doesn't ask us for this, but then it also asks us, well, if the population of Chicago was 12,000 in 2005, and Denver had a population of 3,000 in 2005, which is actually a bigger city in 2009. And so to do this, we're going to use the idea that my final is going to be equal to my start value plus my change. Right? Kind of just an intuitive idea, right? So if I start with something and I change, I'm going to get to my final value. So Chicago starts with 12,000 people. So our final value at Chicago is going to be equal to my start of 12,000 people. Chicago changes by 3840.64. Denver, on the other hand, my final value at Denver will be 3,000. It started out as a much smaller city. Then it grew a ton, though, 12,590.65. Now, so the final value of Chicago, if you worked this out, you would get a value of 15,840.64. And if you worked out Denver, you would get a value of 15,590.65. So which one is bigger? Chicago is bigger, even though it grew way less, right? Chicago grew way less, but Chicago proves to be the bigger and better city.